Hi, everybody. Dr. Roseann here, and I am with my buddy, Cynthia Henry Thurlow, and she is going to talk about intermittent fasting. And it's something that I've actually been using since the early 90s. It wasn't called intermittent fasting, it was called you didn't eat until lunch.
You're ahead of the curve.
I'm always ahead of the curve, my friend. So let's dive in and talk about a couple of hacks because you have this amazing program that has
Mhm.
helped so many people, a lot of women, and women don't know about how intermittent fasting can not only help them lose weight, but really help them build health.
Yeah. Oh, well, you are way ahead of the curve, which I say bravo to you. But for anyone that's watching, intermittent fasting has really become quite popular, but it's actually not new or novel. And so it really comes down to eating less often. And for many people, it includes eliminating breakfast. It's just that easy. But there's lots of different ways to tap into the intrinsic powers of intermittent fasting. And I find for busy moms, I know you have a lot of very busy moms with very busy kiddos. And so I think we as women sometimes allow ourselves to take a back seat to our health because we're so focused on everyone else. So when we're talking about intermittent fasting, it really involves determining what works best for you and your lifestyle because some people are able to tap into those benefits just from doing intermittent fasting 2 days a week. But I do find that consistency is really key. So when people are starting out, it can be as simple as eliminating snacking. Like we are a culture that is very focused on eating frequently, mini meals, etc. And so there's an interesting statistic that I like to share. In 1960, the average American had 3 meals a day. Guess how many we have in 2014? That was the last time this poll was specifically taken. Any guesses?
I'm going to say, does anybody else have a guess? I'm going to say 8.
So it's six, but I read a
Okay.
study recently that said the average American consumes a sugar sweetened beverage or eats food 16 to 17 times a day. And this is why we are struggling with so many metabolic diseases because when we eat or even putting sweet foods into our mouth, it evokes an insulin response, and insulin's not a bad hormone. In fact, if we didn't have it, we wouldn't be alive. But if you're spiking insulin all day long in response to consuming food, it's designed to be a fat storage hormone. So we want to really intrinsically tap into the benefits of insulin without spiking it all day long, which is why intermittent fasting is really beneficial. So as you're kind of moving towards the decision to begin intermittent fasting, the things that I really like to talk to people about is pulling snacking out of your life because we should not be snacking and really making sure we structure our meals appropriately. And this is something that is different than what we've been told. We've been conditioned to believe that we need to be very carb centric. I would argue for women, we really need to be focused on protein and healthy fats. Those are the things that keep us satiated, they keep our blood sugar stable. They provide more energy than a carbohydrate. If you want to
And they
think
make
about,
our brain work so much better.
yes, our brains favor using ketones or fats as an energy source. And actually, there's a really kind of cool, nerdy term. It's a hormone, BDNF, and that is potentiated anywhere from 40 to 400% by consuming a more ketogenic or fat protein focused diet than a carb centric diet. And so the significance, and I know for you, you're very brain focused in your research and methodology. This is what we want because we want to be creating new healthy brain stem cell tissue. And this is a way to do that. And we know when insulin levels are low, like when we're not eating all day long, we're much more clear cognitively. And so when I think about benefits of intermittent fasting, people come to it for the fat loss, but they stay for all the other benefits. And one of them is feeling mentally clear and having more energy. And what mom doesn't need more mental clarity and more energy? So really thinking about structuring your meals, making sure you're pulling out the snacking piece can really be hugely beneficial. And then, the other success point that I always mention is sleep, which I'm sure you talk to your families about. Sleep is grossly underrated, but so absolutely critical. If we're not getting enough sleep, especially for intermittent fasting, or if we're not getting good quality sleep and we add in intermittent fasting, sleeping is foundational to our health, which means that there are key biologic processes that occur while we're asleep. Things like spikes in human growth hormone, which helps us build lean muscle. there's something called the glymphatic system, which is effectively like taking the trash out in our brain and it requires so much energy that our brains only do it at night. So you miss out on opportunities to be able to tap into that. And good sleep allows you to better balance your hormones, keep your blood sugar stable, and does also positively impact immunity. And given what we're dealing with this pandemic, I'm reminding people that sleep is absolutely critical. So, couple tips for anyone that's interested in intermittent fasting. Definitely want to be thinking about those lifestyle pieces that can really be integral about having
And
success with this
Cynthia,
strategy.
I think it's so surprising for women where it's been shoved down our
Mhm.
throats, to be honest, that you got to have little meals all free, all day,
Mhm.
all day, all day. And it's surprising them to know that it really is insulin spiking for
Mhm.
us, and that
Yeah.
really we need to stick to 3 solid meals,
Mhm.
and or two,
Yep.
and really narrow that window. I know I try to never eat past like 6 p.m. at night. That's
Smart.
kind of what I try to do. Now I'm working later, so
Mhm.
I haven't been as consistent, but when I do, I try to focus on a high protein
Smart.
meal with just vegetables, which is pretty much mostly what we do. We're pretty heavy paleo household, and my kids don't have dairy, or one child has limited dairy, but no gluten. But so that's one of the best tips, is just
Mhm.
3 meals, shorten
Mhm.
your window,
Yep.
and get some sleep.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds simplistic, but I find for many people, when they start sleeping through the night, they're able to shed weight loss, they're able to lose weight, they feel a whole lot better, they're more pleasant to be around, because what mom doesn't need a little more sleep? I
Oh
think
my
it's one of those
goodness.
things that it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I began to appreciate sleep, because it was a whole lot more challenging to get it if I wasn't doing all the right things. And part of
Yeah.
that is eating properly and
And
really, being
prioritizing
mindful.
sleep.
Mhm.
You know what I
Sleep
mean?
hygiene. Yep.
Sleep hygiene, stop the wine, all of that stuff. I don't know if anybody has a question for Cynthia, but Cynthia, you have a program, and
Mhm.
I've seen a lot of women benefit from being in your program. Will you talk to us about your program? We'll put it in the comments below on where
Yep.
you can reach Cynthia and get in her program.
Yeah, thank you. No, so it's intermittent fasting masterclass. And so it's designed for both newbies and people that are more experienced, that are trying to kind of fine tune, their strategies. And so we do a whole week of prep, and the whole week of prep is really designed to set people up for success, cleaning out their pantry, getting their meal prep underway, really recognizing now's the time to pull the Band-Aid off, get the sugar and the cream out of your coffee and your tea, making sure that you're really setting yourself up to have as much success as possible. And then we have 3 weeks where we're completely off of Facebook, which is really exciting. Sorry, Facebook. We're completely off of social media. I have an app. And so everyone is going through the app, and there'll be daily accountability posts. We have a weekly call for weeks 2, 3, and 4. So it's the easiest way to get connections with me. We have an incredibly supportive, nurturing community of women. Every once in a while, I get some guys, but I tend to attract a lot of women. And so the really cool thing is that's the only way you can get into my monthly group, which has been incredibly popular. People that want to continue, learning from other health and wellness experts, as well as myself, and maximize their gains. And the really cool thing is the master class has only been around for less than 6 months. And the amount of encouraging words, messages, testimonials just warms my heart, because people are making huge strides in their health and wellness, and they're able to do it themselves. Like, that's the nice thing, is that intermittent fasting gives patients back they feel in control. And I think that is the antithesis of what's going on in the traditional medical model, where people show up at a doctor or nurse practitioner appointment, and they get a prescription, and they're sent on their merry way to kind of figure it out themselves. So
Yeah.
definitely a very nurturing environment.
Well, and I love that you're teaching them the way to do it themselves. And like you
Mhm.
said, intermittent fasting, people get into it because they're thinking about weight loss, which is
Mhm.
great. But then they find how much better they feel, and that they bring health into their lives. And so, you're just such an amazing expert in this. And if anybody wants to see her 7 million download TED Talk, please do. But you get to work with Cynthia, and I'm really excited for your app. I really want to check that out, because it's such a great way to connect.
It
And
really
Facebook
is.
is just so different,
It
and
really
it's
is. And I
different,
think,
not in a good way, in
well,
the
and I
groups.
yeah, and I think, social media can be hugely beneficial as a way of connecting with people, but I think it's a much more intimate situation when you're communicating with an app as opposed to getting on social media, especially because there's so much, how shall I say, noise on social
Yeah,
media right now, especially the
yeah.
time of the year it is. And so they can kind of bypass all the other stuff they don't want to see and just focus in on their goals, the things that they're interested in, sharing accountability, meeting up with other like-minded people. And I think there's so much value in that because let's be honest, none of us have time for the noise. Like I have to tune it all out.
No, we don't. And we're moms, and we don't got time for a lot of stuff. And that's why, and this is like, self-care. We think of self-care as a luxury. No, it's a necessity. And I
Mhm.
think if one of the silver linings of the pandemic is that we're realizing how important health
Mhm.
is. And when we take care of ourselves, our kids are so much better for it. So
Absolutely.
definitely, your next class starts when, Cynthia?
Prep week starts tomorrow, so October 26th, and then we start with intermittent fasting the following week. So we are enrolling people all week long. So don't think that if you enroll on Tuesday or Wednesday that you're going to miss any content, but it's really exciting. We've gotten some great feedback already. People really like the app. They feel, again, it feels a lot more intimate and private, and people don't have to have a social media account. That was a lot of the pushback we were getting before, is that people just felt like, I don't like having to check in on social media every single day. So they definitely can give them a little bit more boundaries, a little more control over the learning process.
You heard and you gave people what they needed, and that's pretty
That's
awesome.
right.
That's
That's
what
right. The
when
entrepreneur's dream, right?
well, for everybody who's going to join Cynthia, look forward to a lot of great changes both in your brain and your body, and this is a pretty exciting thing, and hopefully you will learn to take care of yourself.